I am not going to stand here, and it wouldn't be my business to tell you what you should say when you talk to yourself. But what I do want you to do is to be more alert about it, and I want you to take charge of what it is, because we were not trained to do this in school. We were taught to do other things in school. Can I remind you what those things were? We were not taught practical skills like this in school. How many of you remember the polynomials, by show of hands? Do you remember polynomials? I still have most of their albums at home. Do you remember the protractor? Yes, well, yes, sure. When I was in 5th grade, I was a precocious kid. And did I say precocious? Yeah. When I was in 5th grade, I was a precocious kid with bad pronunciation. And I went up to Mrs. D and I asked her, Mrs. D, why are we spending 2 months on the protractor? And she said in a completely straight face and voice, she said, Michael, the protractor is a tool of the future. For what? Like onion dip? What would you actually use that for? I've never borrowed a protractor from a neighbor. And I've never taken my family, even when the kids were young, in the minivan with a map with blanks on it and said, just as an adventure and challenge to our brain, let's fill in the cities as we go along. I've never done that. And speaking of vacations, I have never had half my family leave from New York City on an airplane going at 275 miles an hour, and the other half from San Francisco in a train and see where in the United States. I've never done that. Remember they told us when we were little kids not to run with sharp objects, right? Then they gave us that compass with that sharp thing, remember, to draw, right? Yeah, with which you could puncture a lung. Although, in defense of that skill, that was practical, because if you're an adult and you're ever mugged in a dark alley, you can whip the compass out and say, freeze or I'll draw your circumference. We weren't taught to listen in school. I was lucky to be a communication major as part of my very first degree. And so that helped me study this in depth with brilliant teachers. What I want to do is show you some of the best things I've learned, but I'm not going to tell you what to say. What I want you to do is to be sure that you're listening not only to yourself, but to others.